Thank you for joining us today for this AI webinar, Applying AI at Scale. This webinar is brought to you today by Fulcrum IT Partners companies, TIEVA and Razor. We'll be covering a number of AI-related areas and hopefully provide you with some education, perspective and insight which will enhance your understanding as to how AI can be implemented at your respective organisations. I'm Adam, Head of Client Engagement here at TIEVA, and I'm joined by Jamie Hinton, founder of Razor. The Q&A function within Teams is live. Please feel free to ask questions throughout the session. We'll actually have a bit of time at the end of the session to cover off the questions that you have posed. So without further ado, Jamie, it's your show.
Great. It's great to meet you all, even virtually. Let's get started. So 90% of students are using ChatGPT for homework. That's in one study. But teachers are discouraging this. Now, I don't know about you, but when I was at school, I was told I was not to use a calculator, as we wouldn't have one of these in our pockets all the time. The future has changed, and now we all have these tiny computers in our pockets. So why the resistance? Why is there pushback from teachers to stop using this technology? From another study, it found that 75% of companies considering or implementing bans on ChatGPT. So we can see legitimate reasons why they're doing this. So there's security concerns, IP issues, and a whole host more. But is there another way of doing this? So today we are going to cover the following things. So what AI is, to make sure that we are all on the same page. And then we're going to have a little history quiz. And we're going to have an understanding of why there are the challenges in scaling AI. We're going to look at how to scale AI both horizontally and vertically. And then we'll touch upon ethical and responsible use of AI. We'll look at leveraging AI for transformation and also where you need to start with AI. And what we'll do is we'll finish with a few inspiring little projects to get you excited for the next webinar that's all about innovating with AI. So before we get really into it, into the flow, what we'd like to do in a little bit is do a quiz. So that we're ready, if you could grab your phones at the minute and scan this code. This is a QR code, the biggest comeback technology of 2020. And then when the quiz starts, you can pick up your phone again and we'll get cracking. So hopefully you've done this. I will remind you of the short link as well. You could obviously go to razor.co.uk/vote at any time. So when you've gone to this, you should just see a bit of a blank screen on your phone and it will come on when we're ready. Okay, so what actually is AI? We've got to make sure we have a shared understanding. So people have all sorts of ideas of what AI is. Some people think it's a black box in the corner of a room. That literally has been asked of us. Others might think that it's literally just ChatGPT. And some think it's a full-on robotic humanoid, like in the movies. So let's make sure we all have a common understanding. So AI is software used by computers to mimic aspects of human intelligence. So this definition is what we believe to be the most succinct and accurate description. There are lots of them out there, and the majority of the definitions revolve around a few concepts. We replicate human thought, reasoning, problem solving, and decision making. So it's nothing new, right? So when my mum asked me about what AI is, I said to her, you probably have used some of this AI right today or already. So this came as a surprise. So have you used today Google Home and Alexa, got a book recommendation, checked the weather forecast, driven in an autonomous car maybe, unlocked a device with face recognition, or even had phone autocomplete? Now, you've probably done this. All of that is some form of AI. And this aligns with our definition. But these are fairly new technologies. I don't know. How old is the AI wave? So this is time for an experiment. So what I'd like you to do is get hold of your phone and we'll start the quiz. So the first question is, which year was the first fully learning robot created? Was it in 1969, 1979, 1997, or 2008? Let's see how people do. Well, the votes are coming in. Okay. Oh, not bad, not bad. Actually, I say the majority have got the answer right. The answer is 1979. So when we say fully learning robot, we mean one that can navigate around without bumping into anything, a bit like a Tesla driving around a car park. And the first fully learning robot was called the Stanford cart. Obviously, this was in its last iteration of it. In 1979, the cart was made its way through 20 meters through a chair-strewn room without human intervention, and it took 5 hours. We've come a long way, but it's amazing to know that that technology was right back in 1979. Okay, let's have a look at the next question. So, which year was the first neural network created? So a neural network is a mathematical algorithm that makes decisions in a similar way to a human brain. So was that first created in 1943, 1955, 2002, or 2012? Okay. Oh, the majority are very good. I hope people aren't just Googling this, but oh no, we're moving around. Nearly got all the scores in. I really do hope that some of this, these little bits of information will be great in a pub quiz at some point too. So the majority thought that it was actually in 2002. The answer was 1943, where there was a paper written about how neurons might work in the brain. And to demonstrate this, the people who wrote the paper modeled a simple neural network using electrical circuits. I think that's really flipping cool, to be honest. Okay, let's move on to the final question. Let's see how well we do. So which year was the first example of an LLM created? So LLM stands for large language model. So think of ChatGPT, and ChatGPT is a foundational large language model. So was this in 1958, 1966, 2020, or 2022? Okay, the votes are coming in. This is a tricky one. Again, I hope we're not Googling this, but you know, that's what we do these days. That gives us the answer. Not bad. The majority have got this one correct. It was first created in 1966. It was used, basically had a simple set of rules to mimic human conversation that seemed natural in conversation. And then all these years later, now we have ChatGPT first released in 2022. But it was started way back in 1966. Well done. I think the majority got 2 out of 3 right, so we'll go with the majority. That's great. So here are a few statistics to put this statement into context. So the current AI wave will affect almost anything that we do one way or another. 72% of executives think AI will become the most significant business advantage in the future. 39% of businesses have already replaced some human tasks with AI solutions. Nearly 30% of UK jobs could be replaced by AI in the early 2030s. And 35% of businesses worry about the technical skills needed for AI use. So does this matter? And should we care? Do we care about all these jobs being displaced? It's progress, right? We need to care, because if we don't, it won't stick in our businesses. People will reject technology, however good it is, if they're not on board. And if it's rejected in your business, you won't get that competitive advantage. And anything that you've invested in it will just be complete waste. So, but why all the pushback? So to understand us humans, we need to understand where we've come from. Once we appreciate how we've evolved, we can take subtle changes to enhance our progress and make sure we get off on the right foot. So let's put this in perspective. So I wonder if anyone knows what these are. Now, I'm not going to ask another poll. However, you probably recognize them as early man's tools. Now, if we really boil it down, these are technology. This was, way back in the day, our AI. Now, if you look at the tool on the left, this was the oldest tool ever found. And then there's a gap to when the second iteration of this tool was created. And what do you think that time gap was? Was it 10 years? Was it 1 week? Was it a year? And you'd think these days, well, we'll just make iterations. The time difference between those two tools was 2 million years. That's incredible progress, I think, in 2 million years. But it just shows you where we come from. Now, if we look at this statistic, in 1903, we had the first flight from the Wright brothers. And then in 1952, we had the first commercial jet flight, the Comet. So we went from a bicycle with wings to having a poo at 30,000 feet in 49 years. That literally blew my mind. And this is just starting to put in context what's happening around us with technology. So technology is moving faster than humans can easily cope with. We have a bias for negativity. We focus on the negative things 10 times more than the positive. So when we hear things like, oh, it's going to take all our jobs, we focus on that bit. We focus on the negative stuff that it could really kill us. So we don't inherently like change. Change is fear and potential danger. Danger means that we might not survive. And if we don't survive to procreate and look after our young, what fundamentally is the point of us being here? So we need to want change. And we'll come back to this more later. So how do we scale AI? There are two vectors when scaling AI in an organization, both horizontally and vertically. Horizontal scaling is across a business, making sure that all departments are adopting and advancing these new technologies. And vertical scaling is how deep and high the technology goes in a single niche. These both require different approaches. When done at scale, both horizontal and vertical scaling is required. But first, let's have a look at horizontal scaling. So some of you might have heard of the technology chasm, or the bridging the chasm gap. So we can think of horizontal scaling in the same way we think about any new technology adoption. There are early adopters, but to get the majority on board, there can be a gap, or what we call the chasm. This isn't just for big initiatives or changes. It can involve the most trivial, including small AI initiatives. The early adopters are generally the technology champions and don't mind imperfect solutions. There are probably some already in your business. They might be using ChatGPT or other tools that you don't even know about, maybe. But to get widespread adoption, the solution must cross that chasm into the mainstream. So our project needs pragmatists. So pragmatists are the start of the majority adoption. They're on the other side of the chasm. So pragmatists only want incremental change. They don't want radical new things. So we want to just make their life just that little bit better every day. They really don't want the wholesale change. So projects fail when they don't inspire the pragmatists to get on board. And I'm pretty sure you've seen these in your business. We have to offer these incremental positive changes to the pragmatists. So we also need to go niche. So what we have to do is find a small but really high impact area to create the first AI project. This will attract the early adopters, and then we focus on features and functions that then will get the pragmatists interested. The more focused and smaller the niche, the easier it will be to gain that traction. So we need to create a complete solution for the niche. We can start with a POC, proof of concept, or MVP, minimal viable product, but we need to build it out. Pragmatists won't tolerate a half solution. We need to understand that they need and to make sure that they have a full solution, but we need to make sure that they have support and training needed to ensure the uptake, and make sure it's super easy and frictionless. Make it truly the easier way to work, and in some cases, make it so they don't even know they're using this technology. It's just the easier path to go down. This is one point I think, or sometimes gets missed in organizations when they're rolling out a POC, and we see it sometimes, and we really encourage people to sell that solution within the organization internally. So don't expect it to catch on without selling it. We need to market the solution just as you would with any of your external products. Talk directly with the users in the niche and get them excited and get the adoption running. Once there is success within a niche, move on to the next one and repeat the process. But don't do that until you've got something working and really rinsed out. So that's where we do the horizontal scale out across AI niches in AI across the organization. Now, that's horizontally scaling, and we're getting it across the whole organization. What we're talking about now is the vertical scaling. So scaling vertical is more about the background technologies. I can get quite excited about this, and probably not everyone does, but I think it's really important to touch upon. So the proof of concept has gone great. It's amazing. We now have the early adopters and the pragmatists on board, and the majority are really starting to flood in. So one particular solution is gaining loads of traction, and now we have different problems. We have things like data growth. We have degradation of machine learning models. We potentially have data quality issues. We have data access issues. We need more guardrails on our generative AI implementations. We really, really need to think about security. We need to keep everything up to date. And we need to make sure that we're in line with regulations and ethical compliance, especially with reinforced models that take feedback over time. So these become highly technical challenges. Similar to horizontal scaling, though, we can borrow existing approaches, primarily from the software engineering sector. The other key thing for vertically scaling is having a strategy ready. Make sure you know what you're doing and have it. The demand on the great solution can grow fast, so be ready and prepared. So the strategy needs to have a set of principles as well as steps to make sure that decisions are quickly made and consistent. And that's the key. I think the principles are really foundational within any strategy, especially when scaling vertically. We have to look at tools and practices. This is where a concept called ML ops, machine learning ops. This is, again, something we've stolen from software engineering. We can have reusable code that's easy to find, consume, and is well documented. We create standardization. So we implement ML ops for continuous integration and deployment. We use automated tests and test frameworks. Now, you might say, how do we test AI in an automated fashion? It's not quite like software engineering. You put two numbers in and you get a certain number out. So generative AI, for example, will give varying results for the same prompt. Now, we've actually created our own generative AI test harness where we iterate over the same specific inputs thousands of times and measure the variance of the responses. And funnily enough, we actually use generative AI to measure those variances, which is a bit self-fulfilling. But the key here is to borrow best practices and learnings and apply them in creative ways to match this new technology. Culture is actually at the essence. We talk about people a lot, and culture really does cross both horizontal and vertical scaling. Creating an enabler culture unlocks the adoption. And the fear of change for new technology can be a really big barrier to scaling AI. So we've got to embrace this with the right culture. Now, I couldn't have a talk on AI without touching ethical and responsible use of AI. So it doesn't take much to ruin a really great enabler culture. It only takes one slip up with irresponsible AI. We've got to remember our negativity bias. We'll look at a negative thing 10 times with more focus than a good thing. So we've got to bear that in mind. So ethical challenges in AI. The ethical challenges in AI boil down to 4 areas: explainability, responsibility, fairness, and misuse. So let's have a look at explainability. Can we explain how the AI is working? Can we explain the source data? And can we explain the algorithms and how they work and why? We need to have traceability. When we look at responsibility, who's responsible for the decisions an AI system is making? These are especially important when there are catastrophic consequences. Who's to blame? Although there have been some recent cases in court, it's still not really clear who's responsible in every single case. When we look at fairness, we're looking at what data sets involving personal identifiable data need to be used so that there are no biases in terms of race, gender, or ethnicity. We need to validate this, and that's really, really quite difficult. When it comes to misuse, so this is where we might be using an AI algorithm for purposes it was not created for. Maybe, for example, creating malware or a virus. So we're using AI algorithms to create new drugs at the minute, but what if they were those same algorithms being used to create a virus, human virus? This is something we've got to really take note of. You might have heard recently in the news around the new EU AI law. That's a mouthful, even if I try and slow down. So the law at a high level covers risk and transparency, a little bit aligned to the ethical principles we just touched on. So we have high-risk functions, and these high-risk functions will be banned in the EU, and these include everything from biometric categorization systems that use sensitive characteristics such as political, religious, philosophical beliefs, sexual orientation or race. So we've got to think about untargeted scraping of facial images from the internet or CCTV. We've got to think about emotional recognition in the workplace and educational institutions. So social scoring based on social behavior and personal characteristics, all these sort of things will be banned. So transparency ensures that the producers of AI have to disclose that their content was generated by AI. So we have to literally say, this was created by a tool, or this was created by an AI algorithm. We tell the user that's the case. So we need to design the model to prevent it from generating illegal content. Now, that sounds easier said than done. And how do we validate that? How do we check every single permutation? This is not trivial. So we've got to publish summaries of copyrighted data that's been used for the training. Again, there's going to be vast amounts of data. Who's going to trawl through all of that? So some of these are going to be really hard to enforce and validate. And how do we actually catch the nefarious actors? We aren't really sure yet. So let's have a look at how to leverage AI for transformation. So we've got ethics under control and we're firmly on the right path. How do we leverage AI for transformation? What can we do to really cross the chasm and ensure that our initiatives work? I saw this quote last week and it really resonated. How many times have you used one of these chatbots on a website and just wanted to chat to a real person? The bot was useless. It wasn't integrated. No, it wasn't tailored to truly help me. Anything like this is just pure novelty and I can't stand it. Without integration, there's literally no complete solution. So we can't get those pragmatists on board and get them over to the majority. So to put this into perspective, let's look at a couple of examples to get the idea. So this was DPD's attempt at launching a generative AI-enabled chatbot. It had no smarts or guardrails. It wasn't tailored or specialized. It wasn't trained to sound like DPD. It certainly wasn't integrated, and it couldn't do anything useful. In this example actually caught the news, and it could be easily controlled to write a haiku about how useless DPD are, or to recommend better alternatives. This is just novelty all over, and it's completely worthless. I'd love to know how much they spent making this a real thing, and how much it was wasted. Here's another great example of a poorly implemented OpenAI integration to a chatbot from a car dealer in the US. In this example, it was really easy to get the bot to agree to anything. Again, no guardrails, no specific training, and no integration. It's absolutely useless. It's all novelty. So in this example, the dispute actually ended up in court. The result was that Air Canada was actually responsible for their chatbot. They had to pay up. But the key message here is it's important to create truly useful interactions. Specific training and guardrails are paramount, and integration makes the solution stand out. So when we talk about integration, it can be anything into internal systems. It could be CRMs, accounts, orders, e-commerce, whatever is needed to make the bot actually useful. It has to be deeply integrated into the way your organization works. It cannot be novelty. Absolutely cannot be. So where do you start? With all of this, where's the first starting position? We covered crossing the chasm, but which chasm? Where do you find your niche? We start with what we call our AI readiness assessments. So first, we have to understand where you are. We get people involved. We ask for people's ideas. We watch what they do, because what they say and what they do sometimes are two different things. We highlight areas that you might not think are possible to enhance with AI, and we cut through the entropy. In the AI assessment, we cover these broad areas: architecture, organization, strategy, skills, technology, and governance. And all of these features we actually interleave with people. So we elicit the ideas and potential solutions, and then we plot them on what we call an Eisenhower matrix to help prioritize and find the niches that can be delivered with minimum effort and maximum potential return. For us, all of this is about commercial return. What's the point of doing the really hard thing and invest lots and lots of time and money when actually it's not going to give a good return? So it's really important that we actually focus on the commerciality of this. We look at off-the-shelf, custom and blended solutions. And then at the end of it, we have a net score. We highlight areas where work is needed and areas of great progress and potential. And then the first step is complete. We have clarity. We know what to do next. So once we have the list of opportunities, we can move on and take some action. And this is really important. Action equals information. So this is where the innovation and real fun happens. Now, I'm not going to go into too much detail on this because in the next webinar, Patrick is going to share how we get started and give you an idea of what's possible. Now, the innovation sprints can be big, can be small, and what I'm going to do is give you an idea of what is possible right now. But again, you must watch Patrick's webinar to really get into the detail of this. Now, in this innovation sprint, we were challenged to take a taxi booking via a phone call. The call center is still there, even though we have mobile apps, but it's very busy and it's a very, very large cost center. We were tasked to see if we could significantly reduce the cost and increase their bottom line. It uses generative AI for comprehension and understanding. It also uses speech to text and AI synthesized speech. Now, we're combining lots of different technologies here. Now, what I'd like you to do is, what you're about to hear is Vera answer the call, and what you'll see on the screen as well is the debug output from our AI algorithm. So let's hope that the demo gods work and you can hear this.
Hi, I'm Vera from Vizu. How can I help you?
I'd like to book a taxi, please.
Just a sec. Sure, I can help you with that. Could you please provide your name?
It's Alex calling, and I'd like to be picked up from 18 Meadow Terrace.
Okay, give me a minute. Thank you, Alex. And where would you like to go?
I'd like to go to Hillsborough Football Stadium, please.
Okay, one sec. Thank you, Alex. And when would you like to be picked up from Meadow Terrace, Shoro?
I'd actually like to change the pickup location to 15 High Stores Drive, please.
Okay, give me a sec. Thank you for letting me know, Alex. And when would you like to be picked up from 15 High Stores Drive, Sheffield, S11 7LL?
At 7 o'clock this evening.
Okay, give me a minute. Okay, that's booked for you. Your driver will pick you up at 7 p.m. today, and it should be about £5.40. Is there anything else I can help you with?
No, that's great. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Okay. Thank you for using our service. Goodbye.
How cool is that? So there's huge scope for this type of solution. We can understand the weather in the local area, change the voice and accent to be very, very hyper-local, and we can even understand the language and answer in different languages. So we can even respond if there's a football match on and actually talk in a very colloquial, normal way. So this type of technology has far-reaching applications beyond booking a taxi, and it just shows you what's possible. And we proved that this sort of technology is possible. So we've spoken about chat, but there's more to AI than just chat and generative AI. Although the last demo took chat to a different level, we can do more with it. And this is where we're going to go next. Now, this is one of my favorite examples for a number of reasons. Without it, without the AI in it, it just simply wouldn't work. And the AI is the nucleus of this. But without the rest of the surrounding technology, it also wouldn't work. Ontaro is an online child safety monitoring product. It monitors all forms of communication: WhatsApp, Snapchat, text messages, email, you name it, it's there. So it doesn't really even matter how short the messages are, even if they're disappearing messages, they're also captured. Now, we can't tell you how we did this. All I can say is I felt the solution, the very simple solution, was ingenious. And the cool thing about this is all the data that we feed and aggregate is fed through a generative AI algorithm, and it can identify trends or potential problems. It even does this across all of the communications. It can have one message on WhatsApp or a disappearing message on Snapchat, and it can hook that maybe with an email or something else, and it has that context, it understands. Now, what we don't do here is we don't store that data on a child's device, and we don't share the actual specifics to the parent. What we do is we give an indication to the parent to go and have a discussion about a certain subject. Now, I think that's really quite magic. It's bonding the parent with the child, and it's actually leveraging technology to do something good. And all of these things, all that whole product came from a number of sprints. We understood, is it possible to intercept that communication? Actually, can we now use AI? It built upon those. It didn't go all in and build a product from the ground up. in one step, because that would probably be quite risky and dangerous. This is another one of my favourite experiments. So after we worked on a project where we were using X-rays to determine internal defects, and these X-rays were completely black. We couldn't see anything by a human eye. It got us thinking, what else could a computer see that a human couldn't? So this experiment is hosted in a web browser and uses a short video stream to capture through a webcam. So I'll start playing this video. We then process the short video stream and identify a flush of blood across your face. We can then use this flush to work out what your heart rate is. So on its own, this is really cool, but it makes you think, what else is out there that a computer can see that a human can't? We could probably see, is a machine on? How hot is that machine? We can even do accurate measurements from vision. So we can see how big something is. Is a machine vibrating more than usual? So we can sensor up a machine in harsh environments without even having to put any physical sensors on it. So we've been working with a company recently using computer vision to identify even if a lettuce will have a disease 4 days before a human eye can see it. I mean, I think that's really, really cool. So hopefully these examples have given you an idea of what's possible and made you think about how AI might work in your organization. So we've covered a lot in this short time. So let's have a quick, brief recap. So we covered what AI is. It is fundamentally software used by computers to mimic aspects of human intelligence. We found that AI, even the latest and greatest generative AI, isn't all that new. Neural networks date back to 1943, and large language models originated in 1966. It isn't the new blockchain, and it has real application. So Bill Gates said that we overestimate AI's impact in the next 2 years and underestimate the impact it will have in the next 10. So it's a huge opportunity if adopted and integrated early. Starting with people ensures the change is adopted, and understanding our origins and how we work gives us a clear path of the right way forward. To scale horizontally across the organization, build on early adopters, bridge the chasm by creating a whole solution for the pragmatists. Vertically is how deep and how high the technology goes in a single niche. And we need to borrow, beg, and steal practices and tools from software engineering. And how we cover how to use AI for transformation. Integration matters, and novelty seldom creates transformation. So the few things that I would like you to take away from today. Don't be scared of AI. Find something small to start with, create a POC, and then scale it. And most importantly, start with people and get them on board. Without people, none of the technology matters. So with that, I'm sure we have some questions. And whilst Adam gets the questions together, take a look at our talk on prompt engineering. I think you'll find it actually really useful. That's how you can get the best out of things like Bard and ChatGPT, and maybe a bit of an insight of how we use prompt engineering to do some really cool stuff with things like LangChain and the foundational large language models. You can also have a look at our AI readiness assessment and have a deeper read on that one. And also get yourself signed up to the Innovating with AI with Patrick. So who has the first question, Adam?
Yeah, we've got a few coming in, Jamie, just as well as the QR codes, guys. My colleague Umar has just put in the URLs to the associated resources in the chat. So if you wanted to open on the desktop browser, feel free to do so. Obviously, after the session, we'll circulate some information which allows you to access those resources. So I think I'll just go from the top because Matt asked a question at the start of the session, which I found quite funny, but it does have a lot of relevance given the points that you've made, Jamie, around the speed of technology evolution. So Matt wants to know, do we feel Robocop will be a real thing in the next 20 years?
That's a great question. I have my opinion, but I hate making predictions because I'm not a digital prophet, and predictions always get you into trouble. I think the only prediction I'll make is the future will be different, and the only way we can, I suppose, create it is to predict it is to create it, really. Now, we do see that AGI, advanced artificial general intelligence, is coming, and I think that's where we're going to have a real big inflection. I personally don't see it happening in the next 20 years, but the robotics, automation, and generative AI is really coming to an inflection and joining and creating some really interesting solutions. But if we don't start with people, it doesn't really matter how good these bots are, because we will just stamp them out and not accept them, and they're totally useless anyway. So again, the remit of coming back to people is always really viable.
Thank you, Jamie. Okay, next question from Paul. How do we keep humans central with the emergence of AI, and in particular AGI? Previous tech that displaced human jobs created new industries, but they still relied on human creativity. Good point. In the world of AGI, do we still need humans? The AI can have its own creativity. That's a great point. Great question.
Yeah. So again, AGI, I think we're quite a way off from AGI, and hopefully that will get us to singularity, and it'll be great. Now, it's either going to go one way or the other. It's going to be amazing, or it's going to be absolutely terrible, and that's totally up to us how we, I suppose, regulate, how we act with the nefarious characters. But I think AGI is quite a bit of a long way off. And I think this might be a bit controversial. However, when it comes to, say, the creativity, there are two sort of camps. When we say we've seen like Mid-Journey or ChatGPT writing stuff, yes, it is creative, but without the prompt, it isn't. It's the ingenuity and, I suppose, left ball and outside of the box thinking of a human being to come up with a crazy prompt. Now, I'll tell you what, you put rubbish in, you'll get rubbish out. If you put crazy stuff in and new ideas, you'll get new things out. Just think of it as a tool at the minute. We do have to keep an eye on AGI, but I think it's actually a little bit further off than people think. I was promised autonomous cars by Volvo in 2017. They're still a long way off. I don't know if you've ever driven a Tesla, but they're a long way off. But it's coming.
Thanks, Jamie. Gordon would like to know, the Ontero app, is it still proof of concept? I know the answer, but Jamie, I'll let you provide the answer. It's your product.
No, that's a great question. So no, it is not a proof of concept. You can go and get it in the App Store. It has a subscription fee for it, but it's in its early adopter stage. It's gaining quite a lot of traction, and we're just really pleased that it's being used and doing some good in the world. The story behind it, if you look it up on our website, is a really heartwarming story. Very sad, but also very heartwarming because we've done something about it. So I stress you have a look at it and see if you can propagate the joy of Ontaro.
Thank you, Jamie. So the next question I think is probably very relevant. Stephen, this is relating to confidentiality around data. So Stephen says, our business does not allow access to public AI such as ChatGPT, as we are concerned that any information we put in our questions could potentially form part of someone else's answer. Great point. Is there that kind of security risk in public AI projects, in your opinion, Jamie, or based on your observations?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, anything that's in the public domain goes in. We hear it a lot with companies because we work with quite a few large manufacturers and retail organizations. Anyone that really has IP really should not go near ChatGPT or anything similar, which is why we have our own product, which essentially creates a placenta between the foundational models and your own internal IP and documentation. And we find this works really well. It gives the organizations the control of the documents that are fed into the large language models, and you have control of the outputs. We do really have to be very, very cautious about what we're publicizing and what we're putting out there, because it will get sucked into the large language models at some point. But if you want to have a look at our Data QI product and some of our, I suppose, more tailored solutions, they can really make a difference in organizations, and you can get the power of those without having the worry of the security, IP risks, control, anything else.
Thanks. Okay, next question from Philip. I was interested to note you could use the X-rays to establish internal defects. We're a law firm representing tenants against landlords when they live in poor housing conditions. Would it be possible to use AI using a camera to establish the cause of damp or defects in house, such as damp and mold?
Potentially, I suppose, without being a scientist and understanding all of the permutations of how damp and mold come about, there might be ways. And I think what we'd do is start understanding how they happen, gather the data, run a sprint, and actually work out if it's possible. I think when you work with the team and you challenge the status quo, and you combine a real world problem with some technologists that don't have the entropy or the history and the grounding, or it's not possible, I think some magic can happen. But I think experimentation needs to happen. But I'm not a scientist in damp and mold or a building inspector. However, I'm sure there are possibilities.
Yeah. Okay, so Lynn asks, do you have a list of, say, the top 50 AI resources that would be useful to companies? Fair question.
No, but I think we should start compiling them. Great idea. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Lynn.
The challenge there is it moves so fast. But I think some of the things that I would put at the top of it, depending on your organization, again, I'm a developer from background and I have the answer all the time. It depends. Now, depending on your organization will depend on that list. However, I think looking at the market in terms of what's available in terms of the tools that are just totally free, and then how to use them properly. And I think really when it comes down to, we're talking quite a lot at the minute about generative AI, learn about prompt engineering, learn about how to prompt it to get the best results. That's where you're going to get the big bang for your buck. If I said to you, go and learn about computer vision and OpenCV, that's probably that's a huge hurdle to get over. But like the learning more about prompt engineering from one of our guys here, I think will give you a real insight of how to get the most out of the free tools like ChatGPT and Bard right off the bat.
Thanks, Jamie. Okay, so I don't think there are any further questions. So if anyone doesn't have any further questions, please get them in the chat now. I guess in terms of roundup, we will be circulating the recording of the webinar so you can watch it back. We will be circulating URLs and ways to access some of the resources that we have presented, and also we will share some contact details if you have any follow-up questions or want to have a conversation with us to get some guidance around all things AI. Jamie, anything further from you?
Well, it's been great, and I hope everyone's found it useful or taken at least one thing away. And just to reiterate what Adam's saying, we're here to help. If you've got anything, don't hesitate just to ask us a question. I might not have the best answer, and there's a whole team here that can probably help you. So don't hesitate to ask a question.
Okay, I think that concludes it, everyone. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.